Are you looking to build a Squarespace site, then got into the actual editor and realized you have literally no clue what you're doing? Or maybe you're not 100% decided yet on if you want to use Squarespace, but you just want to see how it works? Either way, this video is for you. In today's video, I'm going to give you a complete step-by-step guide to building your website in Squarespace. We're going to go from picking your template to adding content to your website, editing the styles and the spacing on the website, arranging pages, editing the site for mobile, and then eventually launching it. Now be sure that you watch all the way till the end of this video because I'm also going to share with you my special Squarespace discount code. Now, if you haven't already started your website on Squarespace, be sure use the link below to get started. That is an affiliate link, and I would just like to say my Margarita Fund thanks you very much for using it. Okay, so once you're at squarespace.com, be sure to head over to the templates page. Now, crash course on picking a template. Do not pick your template based off the demo content because that is what everyone else in your industry is doing. So if you're a yoga studio, don't pick the template with a yoga studio example. If you're a restaurant, don't pick the template with a restaurant example. What you do want to do, however, is pick a template based off of the style of the template. So let's say that you are a financial advisor and you really love the vibe of this one. Okay, I'm going to start with Hales. So I love the vibe and the style of this template. And let's say again that I'm building a website for a financial advisor and not for a floral studio. Okay, so let's say that my business called Finance First. Continue. Next. Get started. Okay, going to delete this little banner at the bottom here. You'll notice I have a very long trial, 183 days. The reason for that is I am a Squarespace Circle member, so I get 6-month free trials. Your free trial will be 2 weeks long automatically. Do know you can extend that trial again and again and again and again. I've not actually heard of them telling anyone, no, you can't extend it anymore. Also, if your trial is over, it doesn't actually delete all the content or anything, so don't stress about any of those problems. Okay, so let me start you off here with a little explainer of what exactly you're seeing in the editor. So on the right-hand side of the page, you will see how your website looks, and this is also where you can go into actually edit the content on all of the pages. When you go into the editor, it opens up full screen, and you can, we'll come into this in a second, basically change everything. Now, I also want to direct you to the navigation options on the left-hand side. So pages, this is where all of the different pages on your website live. So the things that are in your top navigation, the things that are pages on the website but aren't necessarily in the top navigation, but they still exist, those are all happening here in the pages section. So if you want to add a new page, you do so in here. The next option is the design option. Now, this is something, if you go into, say, site styles, for example, you can change all of the style settings in your entire website. Now, this is something that you work at the beginning when you were setting up your website, but like month to month, year to year, you don't really change this bit that month. It's kind of like, this is what you do to get started. Make sure all your styles are what you want them to be. But again, because you chose a template based off the styles, you probably don't actually need to tweak this that much. The next option is commerce. This is very helpful if you are selling anything through your website, physical products, digital products, services, all those different things you can sell through the Squarespace commerce platform. I have a bunch of videos related to using Squarespace e-commerce, so I'll link those above and in the description below in case you want to check those out. Then we get into the marketing panel. So this is where you have basically all the different marketing options that Squarespace has. So things like tweaking your SEO, that gets you ranked in Google, that means search engine optimization. If you want to have a pop-up on your website, if you want an announcement bar, if you're unfamiliar with what that is, enable announcement bar. It's this little guy right up at the top right here. You can add that in and change it up to have whatever you want in it. I'm going to disable that for right now, but that is what an announcement bar is. I think you're all familiar with what a pop-up is. And then we also have some different options, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, those sorts of things as well. We'll get into that later, but I just want to show you what it is. Scheduling is amazing. If you ever need your clients to book appointments with you, say you want to do consultation calls with potential clients, if you want to have people book in for classes, or maybe you are an interior designer and you want to go do home visits for people and again, like consultations in their home, or maybe you're a wedding venue and you want couples to come to you and again, book in for viewing appointments of the venue, that is all the sort of thing that Squarespace Scheduling helps you do. The assets library is basically an area which stores all of the bits and pieces which you have uploaded to the website. So for right now, there's nothing in here, but when you add photos, videos, that sort of thing, that's where they all live. Analytics, again, not that interesting yet because no traffic has actually gone to this website, but this is where you can see things like how many people were visiting your website, where they were visiting your website from, what kind of device they were visiting your website from, what keywords brought them to your website, all those sorts of things. Profiles, this is really helpful if you are, again, have an e-commerce store, and so you want to have a profile of each one of your customers so that they could say log back in and see their past purchases, or if they've bought gift cards with you. If you want to have a better understanding of who your customers are and what types of things they're purchasing, you can see that all in profiles. The next option is settings. This is literally every setting which you could possibly have in your website is all here in this one place. And then finally, the help option. If you need help with your website, that is maybe you have a question which you want Squarespace live chat to answer, or you want to look at a help article example for something, granted you're watching this video, so you probably don't need to, then you can find that all under the Help Center. Now you're familiar with all that, let's go into Pages, and then let's talk about the different types of pages that you can have in Squarespace. Let's say I want something new in my main navigation. Maybe I want my services as a financial advisor. So I'm going to click the plus button in the main navigation, and I have a few different page options. So a blank page is what it sounds. It is literally a blank space, which you can add whatever you want onto it. You can also choose page layouts. This is basically, they have a bunch of pre-built page layouts, which you can then choose to make use of. Granted, I like my content to guide the look of the website and not have to kind of stick it into a template. So I actually always prefer to use the blank page as opposed to the pre-built layouts. Then coming down in the pages options, we have a few different ones. So a blog page is what it sounds like. This is where you create a bunch of blog posts. You would generally have one blog page per website. You don't tend to need more than one. You could have different tags and categories, or tag your blog posts with different tags and categories. If you want to organize them, you don't necessarily want multiple blog pages on your website. If you want a full explanation on tags and categories in Squarespace, how to make use of those and do really creative things with them to pull certain content onto certain areas of your website, I'll again link a video which I have on that above or in the description below. Store is what you're going to need if you want to sell any products or services through your website. So that is your online store. Portfolio, this is basically the pre-done layout, I guess you could say, for portfolio pieces. So if you're a photographer or a web designer or something, that would be relevant for you. Events is if you want a calendar of events. And then folder is actually how you do a drop-down option in your navigation. So if I select folder and then I wrote services, then this actually, and I'm going to add 2 blank pages into here, service 1 and service 2, you will notice that when I hover over services in my top navigation, then I have the 2 options inside of the folder there. So that's what a folder is. Now, while we're talking about pages, let me again quickly explain what main navigation and the not linked section is. So in our main navigation, let's say there's 10 different pages on your website. You don't actually want all 10 in your main navigation. You want to think through what are the most important pages I want someone to visit and put those in your top navigation, and then have the other ones linked throughout the pages of your website or also in your footer. So for my website that I'm going to be doing right here, I don't actually want the shop. I don't want our story. I just want, for example, get in touch and a services page. Okay, so let's go into the editor itself and add some content to this page. So the first thing that we need is a section on said page. So I'm going to add a blank section. And then if you're wondering how you change the height of the section, you take this little option down here on the left-hand side and you pull it up or down to change the amount of space on the section. Now, if you want to add content to this, very important, you go up to the top left, add block, and then you can select from all the different block types that are here. Now, there are a ton of different blocks that you can use. The most common ones that you're probably going to use are up here: text blocks, image blocks, buttons, videos, lines, forms. Those sorts of things are the most common ones, but you have some other ones too, like maps, accordions, charts, calendars, scrolling options, different shapes, those sorts of things. So let's start by adding a text block and then adding some content in here. Okay, so I have written my copy here inside of the text block, and let me show you how you change up and use the text block. So I have right now, the first thing in here is set to be heading 1. So what that means is there are different basically sizes of headings. You can use the options here to change it. I like heading 1, the biggest one for that. And then we also have our paragraph options here. The style of the paragraph and the heading is set in your site styles area. Once we come to the section where we talk about site styles, we'll talk about how you could change that if you're not loving the font styles that are here right now. I want to show you another few options that are in the text editor which might be of interest to you. The first thing is that you can change the color of a word or a few words in here. So I'm going to highlight the word financial. I'm going to click on this color icon here, and I'm going to select a different color. So maybe I want it to be black. There we are. Now, the colors which are appearing here, if you're wondering why do I just have these options specifically, the reason is because these are the ones that are set in your site styles panel. Again, we'll talk about how to change that in a second. So those are the automatic options that are coming up there. If you're not loving any of them, you can, however, use the custom option here to change up that. Let me see. I like that. Kind of a nice lavender color. Okay. Then we also have your basic text editor options here, things like turning stuff into bullet points, numbered list, italicizing the text, bolding the text, arranging which way it is aligning. So center, left, right aligned is also an option there as well. Now, just plain text on a page is not that interesting of a design. So I'm going to actually click on this and move it over to the side and then expand my section by clicking and dragging here and then adding in some other blocks. So let's say I'm going to add an image block. When it comes to image blocks, you have a few different options. You can upload your own images. Alternatively, you can select from your library that's past images which have been uploaded to your website. Right now, it's a brand new website. We don't have anything in our library. We can also browse from stock images. So I'm going to go to that one here. And we have two different options. Free images, these come from unsplash.com. We also have premium images. These are ones that you actually paid for from Getty Images. I'm going to go to free images and search to find an image which I feel like fits for my site design. Okay, so now I've chosen my photo. I'm going to click and drag on the sides of it to change the size of it. And I want to make this a bit more interesting. I'm going to click on edit, design, shape, and maybe do it like this. I'm gonna pull this up to the top left, pull this over to the right. That looks nice. And then let's say my goal for this website is to get someone to book a consultation call with me. So I want to then add a button and tell them to book the consultation call. So I'm gonna click on edit, change this. And then let's talk about linking. So if you hit on anywhere where you can link something, so you can link text, buttons, and images. So if you click on the gear icon by the link, you'll have a bunch of different options of where you can link something to. So the first one is a page. So we can link to another page on our website. So if you say want to link to your homepage or your consult call booking page, you would just type in the name of that page there and select it. Alternatively, you can send it to a different web address. So this is if you want to say send it to something outside of your website, this is when you would use the web address option. If you want this to say download something like a file, then you could upload a file to here, an image, a PDF, whatever you want it to be. And when they click on the button, it would automatically download the file. Also, you can put in an email. So that is when they're on their phone, for example, or they click the email address, then it automatically opens whatever the app is, that their mail app on their phone or their computer. And then phone number is, again, if someone's on their mobile phone, they click on the phone number, it would automatically open the number to call that number. Now, while the section does look nice, there are some things, let's say, which I want to change about some of the style options. So let's go into home, design, and then into site styles. Okay, so I'm gonna go into buttons, and then I have, this is, I think, a primary button. So I'm gonna go into here. This is the font type right now, which is happening there. But let's say I'm not loving that one. So if I click on the current text type, it will say all the fonts in your font pack. So what exactly is a font pack? Well, if we come back to here, select fonts, and it says font pack, we can click on the switch button, and then we have some different options. So it has basically pre-built two fonts that sort of like work well together. We could alternatively go to the mixed option, or all sans serif fonts, or all serif fonts. But the thing which I prefer to do is not actually just to use the font packs, but to actually pick the specific font types which I want. So say for the buttons, this is the one which is the option right now, or the two options in my font pack right now. But let's say I'm not loving those, so I'm gonna go to browse all fonts, and then there are a bajillion fonts in here. There's a font which I already know off the top of my head that I really like, Montserrat, and that will change over the font for me. So you'll notice that the font on my button here has now changed. Now I have a few other options, normal, italic, automatically. I can also change that in the actual button, so I'm happy with that. If there's any other fonts that you're unhappy with, if you're not loving the heading font or the paragraph font, for example, you can go ahead and change them here. And then there's also, if you go to assign styles, you will find the font type for like everything that is in your website. So your header, your navigation, announcement bar, all these different things, you can change them in there as well. The next major option in your site styles is your colors option. So right now it has automatically chosen a color palette for me based off the site design or template which I chose. If I do want to change the colors, I can go into edit palette, and then we have a few different options. We can either choose from preset palettes. You could also upload an image here, and then it will pull out the most primary or consistent colors in that image. You can drag this right here to find your different colors, or you could input a specific code. If you had your brand designed by a brand designer, for example, then likely they will give you the hex code for your different colors for your brand, and you can pop them in there. Okay, so the next thing which people frequently want to do on their Squarespace site to make it not look like a Squarespace site, good idea, is to change the little favicon option that's happening up here in the top left-hand corner. So automatically on a Squarespace site, it is a cube. That's also an indicator that your website is built on Squarespace. If you want your website to look really custom, then we do want to change that. So the best way to do that is to either, if you have a logo image already, perfect, we could upload that. If not, we could actually create something. And my favorite way to create graphics is in something called Canva. So in Canva, I'll go to create a design, and I'll just do custom size, just do 1,000, and create new design. We want this to be a square for our favicon. Then I'm just gonna upload, for example, some text. Let's say, what was it? Finance first, FF. Just do that. Make this way bigger. Now, if I want consistency between my favicon and the colors on my website, what I can do is come back into designs, site styles, colors, and I can figure out what are the colors happening here. So say this color right here, as I change here, you will find that the codes below change. So I'm gonna pull this color code, copy that, head into Canva, click on my text and change the color of said text by pasting in the code right there. So now this gray green color is the exact same as the gray green color in my website, which is what I want for brand consistency. I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger and then save, download, go for a transparent background. Then I'll come into my website, come back over here, browser icon, add, it's called a favicon. I'm gonna upload the image which I just created. And now that it's uploaded, you'll notice that it changed from a little cube in the top left here to my FF, which looks fantastic. Now this is all looking pretty good. Now my desktop site is designed. And again, if I open it up, you see what it actually looks like on the desktop. But what if I also want to make sure that the mobile website looks good? So the next thing I want to do is click here into mobile view. And now you'll notice what Squarespace will automatically do is it will automatically take all of the blocks which you added onto the desktop and it will add them onto the mobile version. Now, sometimes certain things do or do not look good on the mobile version, but the good news is we can completely change what it looks like. So we're going to head into edit and you'll notice we have the same options that we have in the desktop editor basically. So again, we can change the section height right here. We can rearrange items by clicking and dragging them. And I think I want to rearrange this. So I want to put this down here, and this image up here, like so. Pop that there. It's nice. And maybe I actually want to have things layered. So I'm gonna put this, move this forward. That looks really nice. You can see it well over the image. Alternatively, if it was kind of hard to read this text over the image, you could also choose to add a background to this text. So if I click on this and then click on edit, I could toggle on a background, which then would add a color to the back of the text. Granted, it doesn't look great in this situation, so I'm gonna turn that back off. But that is an option just so you know that you can add a background color to any of your text blocks. Now I'm gonna pull my book free console call up and that all looks solid and then change my section height to be a bit smaller. So again, you have basically the same options in your mobile editor that you have on the desktop editor, but it is definitely useful. Sometimes Squarespace drops things in ways that don't look fantastic on the mobile site. So it's definitely worth you coming in here, build your website first on desktop. And I do suggest coming in and looking at your pages on the mobile version just to make sure everything actually looks good when it's dropped into mobile. The next thing I want to show you is editing the header of your website. So if we head into here and then edit site header, let's change up what's happening in here. So right now what is happening is we have a icon for the shopping cart on the right hand side. We have our logo, or it's just like the written text, which I put in for the name of the business, happening in the middle here, and then our navigation options on the left hand side. But if I don't love that, I can change that. So I'm going to go into the desktop option. And then when it says header layout, you have the option to change up like which order these different bits and pieces are coming in. So I'm going to go for logo on the left, and then my navigation options on the right, and then a button option on the far right. You can change up the padding for your options as well. And I'm going to come into also the mobile version and see what that looks like. Header layout, that all looks good. Happy with that. I can choose what icon is there for the mobile version. Happy with that. Go back here. When we come to elements, this is where you can choose to toggle on or off certain options in your navigation. So obviously I have the shopping cart icon right now is automatically on here, but the thing is for a financial advice company and services, it doesn't really make much sense. So I'm going to toggle this guy off. For this website example, we'll say that we aren't serving customers in multiple languages, so we don't need the multilingual site option, but it is there for you if you want. Social media, let's say this business is using social media, so we're going to leave those up there on the top right. Good. And then the final option that we have is a button. Now the button is fantastic because it draws attention to whatever the main thing is you want someone to do on your website. So let's say, again, we wanted to like book consultation call. And then you would here in the link option, link it to whatever page would be the most relevant to do that thing, to say book the consultation call. Actually, I'm going to turn off the social links. And that is editing your header. Now let's say I am finished off with my website design, I'm super happy with it, and I'm ready to launch it to the world. Let's talk about launching your website. Head into settings and then billing. We're gonna go to the website option and we're going to upgrade to an actual plan. Now, in terms of advice on picking your plan, I have a few things to say. First is I do have a discount code for you. You can use the code PAIGE10, PAIGE10 at checkout, and that will get you 10% off your first payment. If you're going to use that, I would definitely suggest pay annually because that's going to be 10% off your annual plan as opposed to your monthly plan, for example. So again, you do have the option if you want to pay monthly or pay annually. I would go for annual again if you want to make use of that discount code and get the most out of it. Now, it does say correctly here that the most popular plan is the business plan. I've definitely found that 99% of my students and clients, they tend to be on the business plan. It just has the most features which are relevant to small businesses. You can go through the list of options here and see are there features which maybe you do or do not need and therefore could go for personal, but I'll let you again scroll through and decide what makes most sense for your business. If you are getting into selling something on your website, so this is that you want to use like the online shop functionality where someone can purchase a product through your website, then it definitely makes sense to start looking at the commerce plans. There's the commerce basic and the commerce advanced plan. You can actually sell items through your website on just the business plan, but it's going to add a transaction fee to any transactions and take 3% of each sale. So again, if the primary purpose of your website is an online store, then I would definitely recommend going for one of these two. And then in terms of choosing between the basic plan and the advanced plan, it basically comes down to some of the more complicated online shop features. Like, do you want abandoned cart recovery? For a quick example of what that means is like, if I put something in my shopping cart, I put in my email address, but then I don't actually put in my credit card details and shipping details, then when you have the commerce advanced plan, it could send me an email and be like, hey, Paige, you forgot this in your shopping cart. Do you still want to buy this? Which probably I do. So those are some of the features which come in the advanced commerce plan. Granted, for the website, which I was just building, showing you an example of the financial advisor website, I don't have any products to sell. I need some more complicated features, like maybe I want pop-ups or announcement bars or whatever. So therefore, I'm going to go for the business plan. Now, automatically, because I am a Squarespace Circle member, again, it has applied a discount for me right here. But if you're not a Circle member, it should have somewhere on this page an option for like insert discount code. And again, you can use page 10 to get 10% off. Now, I won't actually go through and make this website live because I'm not actually using this website, but basically what would happen from here is you put in all your credit card details, you put in your address and everything, and then the next thing it'll ask you for is, do you want a domain? So one of the great things about coming back to the plans is that all of these include a free custom domain. So right after you pay for your plan, it's going to ask you like, what domain do you want for your website? So you would type in, say my website is paigebrutton.com. You would type in whatever you prefer for your domain and it will show you all the available options and you can select which one you want. And again, you can get that free for your first year. That is, however, only if you pay annually. If you pay monthly, then you won't get the free domain, and it costs about $20-ish for most domains on Squarespace. And that is $20 for the year, I should clarify. Then from here, once you have set everything up and you've picked your domain name and you've paid for your plan and everything, you just want to go into site availability. And then you want to select public. Again, it won't give me that option right now because I need to actually pay for this in order to make it public. But just know you would come back in here, select public, and then your website will be live. Okay, so now you know the basics. There's still one vital thing you're going to need, and that's figuring out how to get your website to rank in Google. How do you get your website to rank in Google exactly? Well, generally this is done through creating fantastic, useful content on your blog. So be sure to watch this video next to learn all about blogging inside of Squarespace.